Bitter criticism reading, I don't know what this time, reading Russia Today. This time is hard. No, it's been hard because there's two wars in the world now. But let's see first the war on Donbass. Look. Russia Today. So among all the things happening in the Middle East, Donbass is beating, October 3rd, 2024, home Russia and former Soviet Union. Russia confirms liberation of key Donbass town. Ukraine had previously announced that retreat from Ugledar after intense fighting. We have a soldier photo. Russian forces have completely liberated the town of Ugledar in the Donetsk People's Republic, DPR. The Defense Ministry Moscow has confirmed. Ukrainian forces had controlled the settlement since 2014, when the DPR declared independence following a US-backed coup in Kiev. Ugledar was a strategically important position, featuring high-rise buildings overlooking the surrounding plain. Quote, as a result of conclusive operations by the units of the East Group of Forces, the town of Ugledar in the DPR has been liberated, the Russian Defense Ministry announced on Thursday. Video footage and images of Russian troops in control of Ugledar appear on social media on Wednesday, showing a flag raised over its administration building. Later in the day, Ukrainian High Command said it had ordered a maneuver of withdrawal from the town. It was unclear whether any units had actually been able to leave the operational encirclement. According to a security source who spoke to TASS news agency, Russian forces had almost completed mop up the Ukrainian resistance as of Wednesday afternoon. Some of Kiev's units had suffered huge losses after not being able to leave, the source added. So Russia is winning. Russia is winning in the Donbass. And there's a related news. Ukraine confirms a retreat from key stronghold. The 72nd Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, which was stationed in Ugledar, had reportedly sought permission to retreat last week as Russian troops cut off their supply lines and placed the town under siege. According to multiple Russian military correspondents, their requests were denied because losing Ugledar would look bad while Vladimir Zelensky was visiting the US. Russian forces had tried to take Ugledar on several occasions in the past. The most promising attacks saw them capture the adjacent Cottage district, but ultimately failed because of Ukrainian artillery support located in Kurakovo to the north. In recent weeks, however, Russian advances collapsed. The Ukrainian front, from north of Kurakovo, and threatened that town as well. So I'm going to read the related news. Ukraine confirms retreat from key stronghold. October 2nd, yesterday. And says, home Russia and former Soviet Union. Kiev's forces in Ugledar have said they have been exhausted by Russian attacks on the town and have been ordered to get out. We have a photograph, a Ukrainian soldier driving a vehicle near the town of Ugledar. a Ukrainian army grouping in the town of Ugledar in Russia's Donetsk People's Republic (DPR) has said that it is retreating from the stronghold after weeks of intense battles with Russian troops. Russia's defense ministry has not officially confirmed the capture of the important settlement located in southwestern DPR. Set on a hill in an open area and consisting almost exclusively of high-rise concrete buildings, Ugledar had been turned into a major fortress by the Ukrainian military. Fighting for the stronghold had been ongoing for months, but in recent weeks, Russian forces intensified their attacks, with reports emerging of them taking control of parts of the town. On Wednesday, the Ukrainian military's Kortitsa task force issued a statement on its Telegram channel revealing that, quote, the higher command has given permission to carry out a maneuver of withdrawal of units from Ugledar, unquote. The move is intended, quote, to preserve personnel and combat equipment for further combat actions, Kortitsa explained it. And read even more. Related news says Russia accuses Western and Ukrainian spies of preparing false flag chemical attack. This is interesting. I'm going to read it too. According to the group, the Ukrainian units in Ugledar became exhausted by Russian attacks on their flanks. There was a threat of the encirclement of the town, it said. Earlier in the day, a security source told TASS, a news agency, that Russian forces have almost completed their, quote, mopping up operation in the town. Some of Kiev's units there suffer, quote, huge losses after not getting out of Ugledar in time, the source added. Also on Wednesday, an AD to the head of the DPR told RIA Novosti that a Russian flag had been raised above Ugledar's administrative building. Yang Gagin also stressed, however, that it was too early to talk about Moscow's forces being in full control of the town. The Russian Defense Ministry did not mention Ugledar in its daily bulletin. It did report the capture of Verkhikamenskoye village in the northeast of Donetsk People's Republic. The settlement sits 5 kilometers, around 2.5 miles, east of the town of Seversk, an important Ukrainian stronghold and logistics hub in the area. Kiev's forces have lost up to 2,120 service personnel across the front line over the past 24 hours, the ministry has estimated. And 2 days ago, this is interesting. This is interesting too because Pepe Escobar said that could happen. False flag operation, look. October 1st, Russia accuses Western and Ukrainian spies of preparing false flag chemical attack. A staged incident in Syria is being planned in an attempt to frame Damascus and Moscow, the Foreign Intelligence Service has said. File photograph. The Russian military police officers stand on the road in the city of Ma'arat al-Nunam, located on the M5 International Highway, 33 kilometers south of Idlib, Syria. So it's about a staged incident in Syria is being planned in an attempt to frame Damascus and Moscow, to frame them. The secret services of several NATO member states, together with their Ukrainian counterparts, are planning to stage a false flag chemical weapons attack in Syria. Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR, has reported. The spy agency said that the purpose of the alleged provocation is to frame Moscow and the government in Damascus, which Russia has been supporting for years. In a press release on Tuesday, the Foreign Intelligence Service said, quote, Precisely such a provocation is currently being prepared by the special services of a number of NATO member states and Ukraine, together with terrorist groups operating in the north of Syria. In Idlib province, unquote. The supposed Western false flag operation could also involve the White Helmets NGO, quote, which has become famous for doing dirty jobs for the British Special Services, the Russian spy agency claimed. According to the document, the idea is to stage the use of chemical weapons by the Syrian army and the Russian continent in Syria, and then launch a campaign to discredit Damascus and Moscow at the UN and the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. The press release alleges that the presumed operation will likely involve Syrian militants dropping an explosive chlorine-laden canister at a time when the Syrian and Russian militaries are conducting airstrikes against terrorist groups in Idlib province. White Helmets activists on the ground will then allegedly doctor video evidence and eyewitness accounts to frame Damascus and Moscow, the press release suggests, according to the Russian spy agency. These false reports will then be sent to various international organizations. Since the outbreak of the Syrian civil war in 2011, the US, UK, and several other Western powers have repeatedly accused President Bashar al-Assad's government of using chemical weapons against the armed opposition and militant groups. Under this pretext, the US military had been occupying oil-rich areas of northeast Syria since 2014. In 2018, the US, UK, and France launched missile strikes against Syrian government targets following allegations peddled by the White Helmets, accusing Assad's forces of using chemical weapons in Douma, near the Syrian capital. The Syrian government has vehemently denied any role in the incident. Both Damascus and Moscow, whose military assisted the Assad government in regarding control over much of the territory previously lost to the militants, pointing to evidence that the attack was staged. When the OPCW accuses the Syrian government of the attack last January, Moscow's permanent representative to the international body, Alexander Shulgin, dismissed the investigation and identification team report as a political hit job riddled with inconsistencies and factual gaps. That is my now, it's kind of, this is forbidden news for the free world. Forbidden news for the free world.